As we now transition into talking about social emotional development, I want you to consider again how physical and social emotional development are connected. Motor development impacts social development. This makes sense when you think about the child development principle that states play is an important vehicle for developing self-regulation and promoting language, cognition, and social competence. This webpage has some basic information about the link between motor and social development. Take a look at this link before we continue exploring social development. The web page you just visited should hopefully get you thinking about how important social skills are for young children. To succeed in school and life, it is important to interact with others. There are many early childhood theorists that focus on aspects of social development. These include some that we have explored earlier in this module and in Module 1. I wanted to talk about some of these that are the most often cited in early childhood literature. These theories are important to consider as they really emphasize how all areas of development impact each other, and the way that we may learn cognitive, physical, and social skills is really not all that different. Piaget focused on the idea that social knowledge is learned just like any other kind of knowledge. So a child starts to understand themselves and their feelings based on their interactions with the world. Skinner focused on reinforcements in the environment. Social actions are rewarded and we learn how to act from how we are responded to. Bandura takes Skinner's theory a little further and considers that we do not necessarily have to be rewarded to continue action. His theory is based on observation and modeling of what others do. And Vygotsky focuses on culture and adults sharing the cultural knowledge with children that help promote social development. While all of these theories apply to social and emotional development, I want to take a little bit of time to explore Erikson's psychosocial theory in a little more detail. Erikson sets up his stages of development as a series of conflicts. These conflicts involve relationships with others in the environment that are significant for children's healthy social development and growth. The stages build on each other, so a person must resolve the conflict in earlier stages before moving on to the next. There are actually 8 stages of development, but I only want to look at the first 4 as we consider early childhood and children entering school. The first of these stages is trust versus mistrust. In this stage, the child is relying on the adults in the environment to meet their needs. If these needs are met, then the child learns to trust. If not, then there will be mistrust. So very early on, a child who is not getting basic needs met may start to see the world as an unpredictable place. As they move through the stages of development, they will interact with others differently if they do not develop trust. This stage is one of the most important for social development. Young children who are in poverty or other stressful situations may not build this basic trust and will therefore be starting out at a disadvantage. A child has to develop this trust to feel comfortable exploring the environment and interacting with others. The next stage is that of autonomy versus shame and doubt. These toddlers are wanting to be more independent, but still need that support from adults in their environment. In this stage, children learn self-control and feel good about their abilities. If children are not supported to feel successful and good about what they are doing, then they may develop self-doubt. Initiative versus guilt is the stage that we look at for preschoolers. Children in this stage are very curious and want to do new activities. Children need to be able to try new things and explore, and are also learning about rules and expectations of their society. The hope is for children to develop initiative. Children who do not develop this may feel like a failure and develop guilt. The stage of industry versus inferiority begins at about 6 years of age. Children in this stage are developing competence. They like to plan and complete projects. It is important to support children in this stage to be allowed to be engaged in activities and involved in their learning. Children who are not supported in this way may develop a sense of inferiority and not reach their full potential. This quick run-through of Erikson's stages of development emphasizes the importance of relationship and should make you think of the child development principle that states, children develop best when they have secure relationships. I wanted to go in a little bit more detail about Erikson's theory because of this strong connection to approaches to learning. Remember that approaches to learning looks at a child's curiosity, initiative, motivation to learn, engagement, persistence, and the ability to adapt to new situations. Approaches to learning also considers a child's confidence and helping him to feel secure and learn and be able to fail and then try again. This confidence also helps children adapt to new situations, like going to school. As you can see, there are many of these ideas shared in Erikson's psychosocial learning theory. Think back to the article you were asked to read earlier about school readiness. This contained the following quote: "A more intense focus on academics at an early age, repetitive teaching methods, and subjugation of children to the same insipid task year after year is killing their enthusiasm for learning." While the score on a kindergarten screener may seem like an easy way to look at kindergarten readiness, you get a number and it tells you if a child is above or below a cutoff score. The problem with this comes when we start to use this score to label children as ready or not ready. Then this screener score and the items on the screener become very important. We have all heard of teaching to the test. This may be happening with our young children as we try to make sure that they have all these discrete skills. We may be overlooking some of the most important predictors of learning: curiosity, initiative, motivation, the desire to want to be involved and to learn. This information is important to share with parents. You need to emphasize the importance of allowing children to explore and be curious as they are learning about the world. Do a web search of the term approaches to learning. What are some of the things that you could share with caregivers based on this to help them understand the importance of approaches to learning? Note this in your handout on page 7. The benchmarks for Kentucky's early learning standards in the social-emotional area include trust, social relationships, and attachment, recognizing and controlling emotions, learning rules, independent behaviors, cooperation, and social problem-solving skills. These are all important for a child to grow and develop socially. One of the most important skills for a child to develop socially is the ability to self-regulate. This involves recognizing your own emotions and then actually being able to monitor and control your own behavior. Take a look at this resource from Sesame Street for some information about self-regulation. Another term that you might hear when talking about brain development and school readiness is that of executive function. Executive function is a set of mental skills that help you get things done. It's the ability to plan, pay attention, remember, and multitask without getting frustrated or overwhelmed. Take a look at this information about executive function and self-regulation from the Center on the Developing Child at Harvard. As you are watching this, think about the children that you work with and the importance of these skills to promote optimal learning.
Science tells us that brains, minds, are built, not born. And at the center of this dynamic architecture are a set of skills called executive function and self-regulation.
Children's self-regulation and executive function are key ingredients in their lifetime performance. It's not just about learning language or learning numbers or learning colors.
We have to be able to work effectively with others, with distractions, with multiple demands. These actually are skills that contribute to the productivity of the American workforce.
Look at your shapes. What should you have done next?
Educators, I think, are looking for just this sort of thing. And when we describe what we mean by executive function, they say, yes, that's it. That's exactly, the problem. These kids, they can tell me these rules, but they can't actually use them.
What's this? A toolbox.
A toolbox.
What is executive function?
Safety goggles.
Safety goggles.
Probably the best way to think about it is sort of like an air traffic control system in the brain. Just like an air traffic control system has to manage lots of airplanes going on lots of runways and really exquisite timing and so on, a child has to manage a lot of information and avoid distractions. We really think of it as involving working memory and inhibitory control and mental flexibility. Take a situation where a child is having to take turns. So first of all, the child has to have inhibitory control. The child has to be able to stop whatever he or she is doing and let the other child take a turn.
Cute.
But when it's your turn again, you also have to remember what it is you're supposed to be doing. So that pulls on working memory. If the children who are taking the turns after you do something unpredictable, you have to be able to adjust what you're going to do next. And that requires mental flexibility. Children who are struggling with these capacities often look like children who just aren't paying attention, or children who are deliberately not controlling themselves.
If you don't have self-regulation, you act out and the teacher puts you in timeout, and so then you miss part of the learning that's going on, and then you are more upset because you're behind, and so you act out, and so you get this downward spiral.
How does executive function develop?
7, and plus 4.
In little children, and even in the infant and toddler years, you begin to see the roots of executive functioning skills. What's going on in our brains is unbelievably intricate and complicated.
The prefrontal cortex, or the front third of the brain, is important for executive function. But it's more than just prefrontal cortex. This region doesn't act alone. It's involved in controlling your behavior through its interactions with all other parts of the brain. The brain goes from a situation where you've got nearest neurons communicating very strongly with each other and ignoring the rest of the brain, to these widespread networks that are connecting these different areas. Executive function changes over the life course. It improves radically over the first few years.
I got a match prime.
It continues to improve throughout adolescence. It's not until early adulthood that you have the adult-type networks that are very strongly activated that connect different brain regions together.
Let's take notes.
Also, we believe that executive functions can be trained.
It's just like going to the gym. So the more you practice in these areas, the stronger the capacity is likely to become, because you're hoping to strengthen those neural connections.
You're at 24.
Slowly but surely, you're going to be able to step back, and that child's going to go into the world with these skills where they can get along with other people, change rules, and they can be flexible, and they can accomplish new things, and they're unafraid.
I got bit by my dog in my arm. Oh dear.
If we don't learn these skills during the childhood and adolescent years when they're coming online, we are really ill-equipped as an adult to hold a job, to maintain a marriage, to raise children, to get along with each other, to basically be part of a civil society.
You're okay.
When you think about the social development of young children, it is critical to think about the adults in their life. Remember that school readiness also includes the concept of ready families. Let's take the focus off the children for a bit and think about the needs of the adults to be strong emotionally and then to be able to support their own children. Watch this short video and then consider how you as a community partner can help support these skills in the families that you work with.